Hello YouTube, welcome back to another Good Game Nation video where we bring you everything TCG. My name is Sam and here today with Zach. Zach, say hello.
What up, everybody?
Nice. Alright guys, we are back with another installment of the limited Battle series where it is the largest tournament so far for us here in the States or in Europe or in... I think there's an Oceanic one as well. I don't know anything about that one though because they still haven't posted it. But we are covering it. It's going to be starter decks plus the available promo so far. It's going to be over Discord, and it should be a lot of fun. If you are involved and you are playing green, this video is going to be perfect for you. We're going to be covering what we think the most common builds are going to be. We're going to be covering cards that we tested or we thought were good but didn't make the cut, but you definitely could try. We're going to be covering matchups and all of that in today's video. We're not going to be covering any specific cards individually. We already did that in our last series over the super pre-release, so if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it right here. Go ahead and check it out, then come back here and we'll get into this deeper video. Alright guys, no further ado, this is going to be the list that we feel most confident in. The counts definitely can be changed to your liking, but these cards are the ones that we feel the most confident in going forward with the tournament. Zach, are there any standout cards here for you in this green deck?
Bonnie's really good. Drake's really good. It's kind of where your power's at. You'll notice we're not playing the promo kid.
Currently not playing the promo kid.
Yeah, it's through our testing, it hasn't been as impactful as you would hope it to be. So we just decided to play some better cards that, maybe not necessarily better in terms of wording,
right?
But for what we want to do, we want cards to be able to, because the crux of the deck is us getting to Drake, swinging with a 6k leader, pitching a card, swinging again with a 6k leader. So we need cards that we want to discard. We never want to discard cards that we want to use, but we always want to make use of our leader effect.
Agreed. It's definitely a card you can play. You could definitely cut a Heat if you wanted to actually play it. It does have some decent synergy with Bonnie. Heat and, unfortunately, I don't know this gentleman's name, but the one from the Fire Tank Pirates. They both can't be searched with Bonnie, so they do have, same thing with Kabi as well. There's unfortunate missynergy with the starter deck in general. And in the original starter deck, a lot of your best cards were at 4 counts as well. That goes for Drake and the Bonnie. So there definitely doesn't seem like it was a ton of power up from the super pre-release tournament to this one. So very few cards are actually upgraded. We're able to run 4 kids. I think that's the correct call. You could run 3, you could run less, but this is a card that you have to see. I think this card is very important, except maybe in the blue matchup. Maybe you don't want to see it as much because Dofi's not fun for this deck. But it's definitely a card you want to see and one of your keys to success.
Yeah, the kid's really strong. When you can get there, especially the turn after, right? The turn after you play this kid, you're in a really strong spot. But again, it's just getting there. There's a lot of things you have to do. There is no real draw power outside of Bonnie, so your main goal is to Bonnie and then hope you can protect Bonnie. Blue is like the matchup that kind of gives you a lot of trouble. The cool thing, though, for those of you, the Basil Hawkins doesn't get stopped by Thrust Pad Cannon now. Yeah. So Basil has more value, so I can see you upping the counts there if you want. But other than that, the list is cookie cutter. Again, I'm pretty sure we play 4 Kobe over the 4th Law just because, again, Kobe's 4 drop 6k. It's a turn 2 play, where Law is always going to be a turn 3 play. Even then, sometimes you don't have something on the board that you want a Law, so turn Law might not even be a turn 3 play. It might be turn 4, turn 5. And when you see things like that, you necessarily don't need to play 4 copies of it. 4 copies of cards are the cards that you want to see.
Yeah, the strengths of this deck are the same from the super pre-release. There's not a lot of change here. Your Mills power is your defensive power. All your cards except your 2 heavy hitters have counter power or have blocker. Actually, that's exactly what it is. All of your cards are either blockers or have common power. If they're not, they're Basil Hawkins. That's the strength in this deck, a lot of defense, and your leader is still your highest priority attacker. Your center on the mid game, which is blue strength as well. So that's probably going to be your most difficult matchup, I would say. Blue has drops around the same cost as yours that just really hurt your game flow. I'm looking at cards like Teach, looking at cards like Sentomaru, who green unfortunately has maybe only one answer for, and Straw Sword. If you see a lot of blue in your local meta and you think blue is just going to be just too much of a matchup hassle for you, Straw Sword is definitely a card you can up. Red, yeah, red is another one that I think is a little closer for you. Red is not a matchup I think inherently just bad. It's probably 60-40 favoring red just because Rush is a very oppressive and red has a lot of cards to get around blockers. So keep that in mind. Drake is going to be your best friend, so try to keep it alive. Purple, though.
Yeah, purple's not fun. Purple, you have to out tempo. I guess you kind of have a better job out tempoing purple because most of your tempo comes from your 4 drops and up. So the real answers are really just King, and Kaido. But the problem is if they're dropping King and Kaido, then you don't really have a response for it.
Yeah.
Some saving grace, I guess, is you have the blocker. The blocker does well into the Kaido. It's easier to keep alive, and it's worth investing resources into it to try to kill the Kaido. You can try to grind them out that way, but it's not a fun matchup per se. Drake again, if you land Drake and they have answer, then you're gonna run away with it. Drake is similar to Sentomaru.
Yep.
We touched on it earlier. If the card stays in the game for more than 2 turns, if the effect resolves twice, you're in a very good spot if you're the player with the Sentomaru / Drake.
Yeah, I would. I think that's all correct. I think those are the heavy hitter cards. And I think if you're playing the purple matchup, I think this is and the best way to play it will be grindy. Again, purple doesn't have a ton of combo power in their cards. They're probably playing 16-ish cards without combo power. It might be a little lower, but I think 16 is pretty close to the correct number. It might be 8, but it's a lot. No, it's 12 with Who's Who. Yeah. So you can outgrind them. There's a ton of combo in this deck. So keep your important cards alive. Keep your kids alive. Keep your Drakes alive when you can. They have more value than your opponent's 4 drops. The best answer to Drake is going to be King. So keep that in mind as well. If they have the option to play King, your Drake might not survive anyway. So the resources are going to be super important how you spend them in that purple matchup. For blue, though, this is the reason why 4 uses Captain Kids might be bad. It's good for purple because you might have to go through a couple kids. But for blue, they're probably playing 3 to 4 Dofis, and Doflamingo absolutely ruins uses Captain Kid.
Yeah, I mean, Sobbles is a card too. There's at least a couple copies of Sobbles. It just gets around it. There's hella ways to get around it. But honestly, the more we talk about it in this video right now, I think I'm perfectly fine with you cutting the Fire Pirate to play the promo kid because purple, like we touched on, purple not having a lot of counter power. If you can bump up your kid enough, you can probably sneakily get the extra couple damage in.
Yep, maybe.
Just be wary, like we touched about it, is a 3 drop, so it's very easy to deal with.
Yep. The only reason I have Heat here now, is it really helps with. I think it helps with the blue matchup as well. I think the extra defensive power and the extra offensive power that you can put out with Heat, especially early on, is really nice. You don't really want to play. You don't really want to play Eroge early. Eroge is much better mid game, mid late game. Scratchman and Pooh's not a card you want to play. Killer's not necessarily a card you want to play. You want to play it when it's most effective. So turn 1 play, if it's not Bonnie, I think it's usually Heat. So got to keep that in mind. So if we're cutting a card, it could be the Fire Tank Pirate. But like I said, guys, you're gonna have to test that and really make the decision. I think because a lot of the offensive power for me for green comes out of the leader. So it's a real give and take. The good thing about that kit, it does have combo power, so you're not sacrificing that at any point. It's just you're sacrificing that 1,000 power that the Fire Tank Pirate has. So
yeah, the him being a 4K is kind of is probably the key factor in dissuading us from playing it over everything else. I think,
It
at least
do-
for me.
It does get pumped by Drake. It does restand with Law. There are benefits to it. You could definitely find room for it. It just didn't seem like it was ever going off. That was
It's
the
a
issue.
4K, right?
It's a 4K, yeah.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it was never going off. It always seemed like it was answered. So it just seemed better to always have the extra 1,000 power, just so if you did attack, you didn't have to actually put extra resources into it. But definitely give it a try, see if you like it. It's definitely a card that we like, that it definitely can be strong. It just didn't prove strong when we were playing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. We did test against a lot of purple. That could be why. But that's that. Starting hands. You need to see if you played this in Super Pre-Release and you're just going to keep playing it. Your mode is exactly the same. You want to see Drake. You want to see Bonnie. You want to protect Drake. You want to protect Kid. It's a lot of the same mechanics. We just have higher copies of cards that you could play with. I definitely could see scenarios where you play a little more Straw Swords. I could say scenarios where you play a little more Basil Hawkins. It really depends on how you prefer to play it. Basil Hawkins is a card that we're a little low on because we played in this pre-release, and Thrust Pad was an absolutely annoying card that ruined Basil Hawkins, but with that being fixed, Basil Hawkins might be slightly better now. So
That was so annoying.
he's a really annoying card in this very limited format. But
I'm not gonna say that I didn't abuse it because I did,
yeah, you're
but
toxic.
hey, I got my promo.
You did get a promo. You did get a promo. I think that would be all covered. Anything else? Last touches you want to add?
Nah, I think if you've been playing green, it'll favor you. I think if you're switching to green now, I think that is the mistake. Um, it's the
That's a good
best
read.
I could put it.
That's a good read. Green essentially plays the same. I don't think there's any huge differences. I think purple plays a little different. I think red plays a little different. But I think green is the one that stays the same. So if you were playing green in this pre-release and you want to play it now, I think that's a strong call. You already know how to win the game. That hasn't changed. So just perfect that. Perfect your count list. That's the little intricacies there could sway your tournament. I think green is pretty low on our tier list, unfortunately, mostly because a lot of their cards that were in 4 counts in the last tournament are still 4 counts now. Like you already were able to play 4 Drakes, you're already playing 4 Bonnies. Cards that were upping are like Uses Kid and Law and Aruge. Aruge is nice, but Law I think always stays around 3 to 2 anyway. Uses Kid at 4 is definitely a nice change though.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I would say it's at the bottom, but then again, if you've been playing green and you have that proficiency, it'll definitely help you in the tournament, especially a long tournament. And consistency is important, so keep that in mind. But that will do it for us here at Good Game Nation. Let us know down in the comments if you're playing green. Let us know what cards we're playing different. Let us know if you're having success with that promo kit. He's a card that I want to work, that I want to like, and it just never seems to work out for me. And it's frustrating.
Very, very frustrating.
Let us know if you got into a limited battle too. I would love to know what you guys are planning, what you guys wanted to play, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Catch you later.
Later.